Law School, the Refugee and Immigration Law Clinic is doing incredible work supporting folks that are in the federal detention center right now, going in and screening them and trying to save as many folks, giving them access to an attorney as possible. So please support their work. I ask any administrators, please support the work of the Refugee Immigration Law Clinic here at UH. It is doing incredible work. We need to hold our police accountable to make sure that they are not overtly cooperating with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, that they are not aiding and abetting them. The only way this federal administration can achieve its aims to deport and detain millions of people is if they get our police to do it on our dime. So we need to make sure that our police do what they're supposed to do to keep all of us safe. They don't do the job of the federal government. And also, if you would like to join us, we don't have a place yet. If you have ideas, let me know. But on May 6th, we're partnering with the ACLU and an immigration attorney who is actually from El Salvador, who practices here in Hawaii, and Indivisible and the Hawaii Coalition for Civil Rights to do a talk about the constitutional crisis and what is happening with Kilmar and how that will impact all of us. In fact, they have detained a U.S. citizen who is an immigration attorney who is currently being held, not being extradited to El Salvador, but they are starting to widen their aperture to more and more folks, and that is something that should concern each one of us. And lastly, we are training organizers. So if you want to come and be a part of the Hawaii Coalition for Immigrant Rights on Instagram, that's HI_CIR, come and join us. We have 3 internships available this summer, starting in June, July, and August for 2 days a week. We want to train more of you because we believe that if each one of us brings 100, we are going to start making change in this state and in this country. And I'm so thankful that we still have this space to gather and to speak, but I will tell you, it's starting to get a little scary. And the calculus is changing in my mind day by day. Is this the right place? So for all of you, get ready to get offline and get ready to start meeting in person, taking your communication on Signal, meeting in homes. This is not going to happen through all of the social media channels. It's going to start happening one-on-one. So get ready to have those kinds of conversations if you want to engage in immigrant rights. And again, mahalo for your time, mahalo for your care and consideration. I hope you do something today that makes you laugh.
Thank you so much. I just want to go ahead and open up the floor to any questions that anybody may have. Can I get $5? Yes.
Okay, so the question was really, what can the administration do here at UH to continue to support folks, international students, people who might be at risk? I know that you have an office here that helps international students or folks that have an immigration process. I think it needs a little help. I think it's a little boost, a little support. And so I think that is definitely one place to proactively be reaching out to students that are concerned about their status, concerned about their visa, making sure that they have access to high quality immigration attorneys and supporting them with their fees, potentially for like humanitarian parole or other ways to proactively screen them for other types of immigration relief right now. I have heard that that has been an issue, and I think there's somebody, an organizer that I saw that has been involved with them, and I'm sure that they can probably direct you more on that. I would say right now, from the procedures, unfortunately, if ICE wants to walk into an elementary school and detain a first grader, and they have a judicial warrant, there is nothing we can do to stop them. But what we can do is make sure that our information is private, that the university is following FERPA, that all of your administrators know that they are not to share that information unless somebody comes with a subpoena and a judicial warrant. And I think importantly, it is to train yourselves amongst yourselves as to what are the proper ways. Most of the time, Immigration and Customs Enforcement nowadays is in plain clothes. If somebody is asking you that you don't know, I have a 4-year-old, and we talk about stranger danger. It's like, you see a stranger that is like just in normal clothes and they want to know about so-and-so, you don't answer. You do not respond to their questions. We have not seen them engage yet on specifically on a campus, but oftentimes they are around campuses. But you do not proactively share information with somebody unless they shows a judicial warrant. I think, again, for the administration, making sure that your students that are vulnerable, whether that is they didn't feel previously vulnerable, they had a student visa, or they are worried about their immigration status, I think if you can get that office out there and supporting them proactively, that would go a long ways.
Excellent. So with that being said, we have any more questions? All right. We'd just like to thank and our deepest gratitude for the invaluable participation on our recent panel. Everybody, let's just give a round of applause for our panel. I'm going to hand the mic over to Mahina.
Mahalo everyone. My name is Mahina if you're just joining us or recently joining us, and I am helping MC the event today. I wanted to remind you folks that we have rules listed on top of each tent, kind of taped to the roof, kind of flowing in the wind, but I'm going to reiterate some of the most important ones. Please direct any media questions to the person in the orange vest. The person in the orange vest is also standing in front of the food tent, which is the second from the middle, holding all the food containers kind of straight in front of me. Please feel free to take some snacks and water if you need some. Also, we have people who are security liaisons in yellow vests, so please address any security concerns to those individuals and they will liaison to campus security. Mahalo. And as a reminder, please do not engage or provoke any agitators. We want to keep this event civil, where we can all share our commitment to free speech, academic freedom, and civil rights. So it is my pleasure to introduce our next participants and speakers here. Heoli Osorio and her father, John Osorio, two very incredible figures at our school, both professors. John Osorio is the Dean of Hawaii Nui Akea School for Hawaiian Knowledge, and they're going to be sharing with us campus activism and, fortunately for us, a mele, and we will join along. So, mahalo.
How you doing, friends? Yeah? Aloha mai kako. Let's try that again. Because, like, if someone says aloha to you and you don't say it back, it's basically like telling them to F off. Which is a great technique if you want to tell someone to F off. But in this moment, I'm hoping you don't want to tell me to F off. So, aloha mai kako. Oh, that's much better. My name is Jamaica Heoli Malikalani Osorio. I'm an associate professor of Indigenous and Native Hawaiian politics in the Department of Political Science here at this university. This is my father, Jonathan K. Kamakui'ole Osorio, former professor
No, I'm still a professor.
I don't know
in
if
Hawaiian
they.
studies.
He's
They
an
don't-
administrator
no,
now.
They don't take
He's
that
an
title.
administrator now, which is good
They just
because
don't let me join the union.
there
That's
aren't
all.
very many administrators here today. We might talk about that. Although I did see the Dean of Call. I don't think I saw any other deans. He's a dean. We're excited to be here with you folks today. We're going to hopefully bring up the energy a bit by singing some really slow songs and talking a little bit about why we're here. Do me a favor, if you have a friend who's not here, I don't have any friends, so I can't do this, but you could like bust out your phone and you could say, hey, come down to Wise Lawn because we're talking about sticking it to the man and kicking fascism's ass, or whatever playful language you want to use. With that said, I'll let you introduce your song.
Aloha, everyone. It is such an honor to be here. In a few minutes, I'll talk a little bit about what it's like to be a father of Jamaica and what that means for involvement in movements like this. But the first song I'm going to play is a very personal song. I wrote the chorus of this, just the two lines of the chorus, in 1973, and it was for Vietnam. I wrote the rest of the song in 2003, following the invasion of Iraq. And I'm singing it today, and it reminds me that for over 50 years, we have been fighting American wars. We have been struggling against America's wars. And this war in Gaza is no less an American war than any of the others. The song is called "The Hour the Armies Are Leaving." Polish the candlesticks, place them in cupboards. Sarah, come sit with me now. I'll dampen the fire and cover your shoulders. Listen to your sad cries a while. Our stomachs are empty, but that's not so new now. We've done with so little so long. It's the silence inside and the bedlam outside that we face each in sorrow long. We face each in sorrow alone. We watched when they entered in fearsome array, already too late for regrets. For we knew that our people would never stand still for invasions and armies, and yet we told them, our children, to leave them alone. There was nothing for us in this war. It was generals and presidents far and away who knew what the fighting was for. Who knew what the fighting was for. Come sit by me now in the hour the armies are leaving. Come show me how not to go mad when your wild eyes are green. For all that we struggled, for the little we had life, we had friends, we had family. And if we could go back to the time that we had, we would surely recover our sanity. But we sit here alone and waiting for night, our poor blessed children of memory, while the strangers outside say the words they've been taught about freedom and justice and peace. It's freedom and justice and peace. Come sit by me now in the hour the armies are leaving. Come show me how freedom, their choices. Some say it's just oil and shame, but the cost of this war will be borne by the poor in our country, and theirs all the same. And I think of some couple alone in some dark room, despairing of living in pain, for the thought of a son or a daughter no more, who die for the greedy and the vain. They die for the greedy and vain. Come sit by me now in the hour the armies are leaving. Come show me how not to go mad in the wild of our dreams.
I didn't write it, but I'm going to pretend that you're clapping for me. Okay. We're really, really thrilled to be here, especially in this place today. You may have heard, if you're one of my students, you may have heard me say this before, and if you were here at the beginning, you certainly heard Kawila, our comrade, say this earlier, but this is hallowed ground we stand upon, not just because we're in Hawaii and all aina in Hawaii is sacred, but this place has long been a site of contestation on our campus, in our home, both in the fight against the Vietnam War, but also in the fight against the ongoing desecration of Mauna Kea. We have gathered here many, many, many times. We have occupied this building. We've occupied this building before when our administration failed to live up to its promise to protect our aina, our people, our rights, our civil rights on this campus. I'll say it again, we have occupied this building before. Okay, we got the point. Okay, so anything that has been done could be done again, is the point. We are facing, in this moment, we face struggles that are both local, national, and global. These struggles are intimately connected to each other, and so we need all of us to show up from our own places of struggle, from our own centers of knowledge, with our own intimate love for what we believe in. And it's true that there will be differences in our opinions, both on what matters most in this moment and in the ways we think we must proceed. But that struggle together, that coming together to work through those differences, is what will allow us to be successful. And we are in a time of unprecedented precarity. That vulnerability touches all of us. I think that's important to remember in this moment. That vulnerability touches all of us, and yet we shoulder that precarity in different ways. And some of our comrades, some of the people we love, will be the first line of those attacked. And we must stand with them, not only because we are in the second, third, and fourth line of those who will be attacked, but because their lives are precious. And because they deserve to live lives of dignity. Keep in mind that no one comes, people come to Hawaii for a lot of reasons, but no one comes to the United States of America without having the United States of America completely dismantle, extract, and destroy their own homes, their own economic possibilities, their own families. And so our commitment to those who are either immigrants, migrants, undocumented people in this moment must be as strong as ever. Must be as strong as ever. We must show up for everyone. Now I want us to look around ourselves. And you look around, you probably see friends. You likely will see friends you've seen in these struggles before, classmates, you know, some of the crazy radical faculty who keep telling you things like another world is possible, who keep telling you things like the US military can and will go home, keep telling you things like the genocide in Gaza must and will end. But there's some people you don't see. Our president of this university has made it a point over the last few months to make sure that there are a number of opportunities for us to hear her speak, which is good. We should hear what she has to say. We should be able to question her on the issues that matter most to us, but she should also be showing up to where we speak, to where we gather, to where we have difficult conversations together. She needs to see that we can come together across difference, across this campus with faculty, students, and staff, and hash that out together, and she needs to see the faces of the people she is duly bound to protect. When she and other administrators fail to show up, not only do they fail to understand who makes this campus what it is, they fail to prepare themselves to do their jobs. And so in this moment, I really want us to pay attention and, have gratitude for those who show up, but also pay very close attention to those who have failed to show up time and time again. We need everyone to win this fight. We need everyone to win this fight. Now, the last thing I'll say before this next song is that I know, because of the unprecedented precarity we are facing, that many of us have begun to be not just fearful for ourselves, but fearful for those we love. And sometimes that fear may encourage us to dampen the radical nature of our comrades. We might say, maybe you shouldn't say that thing out loud. Or they might say, maybe you shouldn't show up to that rally. Or they might say, maybe you should make yourself less visible. And I understand the care behind those comments, but what I want for us to really think about in this moment is that if we want to protect those who are most vulnerable, the answer is not to silence them. The answer is for you to get louder. The answer is for every single person around them to bring 10 friends to get louder beside them. Because the more of us who show up, the less visible the most vulnerable become. Yes? I'll say that again. The more of us who show up and say the things that the federal government has decided we are not allowed to say, right? Fuck fascism. Fuck genocide. Diversity matters. The more we all say those things, the less and less able they are to see the first line that they want to attack. The more safe we all become. And in the absence of institutions with courage to protect us, we are really all we have. So I hope you continue to show up. I hope that even if you don't know what needs to be done, that you show up to have the conversation to figure out what's next. And I hope that if you are fearful for those you love, you find more people you love to join and struggle, because that is the only thing that will make them safe. We're gonna sing a song by a really old white dude. Actually, he's dead.
No,
he's not? He's alive?
Yes.
Oh shit.
Come
Damn.
on. He's very much alive.
I mean, he smoked so many cigarettes
maybe
and
you
drank so
stop
much
now.
alcohol.
Maybe
I
you
should
stop
stop.
now,
Yeah.
and I'll just...
I'm not a scholar of American folk music.
Actually, she was asking me yesterday, what can we do that's not like really slow, like the first song you're going to sing? And the only thing I could think of was this song. I'm going to dedicate it to Mari, because she likes Bob Dylan, and so do I. It's just that actually the words of this song are really, really appropriate, because we really are actually building a movement. And either we build this movement that's loud enough and large enough to make them quail in fear, or we will be hunted. We will be eliminated. We will be isolated. We cannot allow that to happen. And we shouldn't. The thing I'm going to tell you is this. Look at what they're saying. Look at what the Congress is doing. Look at what the president and all of his minions are doing. Look at where some of the court is. And see how much of that, all of those powerful institutions, are peopled by cowards. Can you imagine them beating even a small group of people, who refuse to be cowed? And we refuse what they're doing. We will not be silent. If you know this song, and I know Mark does, just sing with us. Come gather round, people, wherever you roam, and admit that the waters around you have grown, and accepted that soon you'll be drenched to the bone. If the time to you is worth saving, and you'd better start swimming or you'll sink like a stone, for the times they are a-changing. prophesy with your pens, and keep your eyes wide, the chance won't come again. And don't speak too soon, for the wheel's still in spin, and there's no telling who that it's naming. For the loser now will be later to win, for the times they are changing. Been a long time since I've sung the song. Senators and congressmen, please heed the call. Don't stand in the doorways, don't block up the halls. For he who gets hurt is he who has stalled. There's a battle outside and it's raging. It'll soon shake your windows and rattle your walls. For the times they are changing. Mothers and fathers throughout all the land, and don't criticize what you can't understand. Your sons and your daughters beyond your command. Your old road is rapidly fading. Please get out of the new one. You can't lend a hand. Well, the times they are changing. The line it is drawn, the curse it is cast. The slow one now will later be last, and the present now will later be past. The order is rapidly fading, and the first one now will later be last. For the times they are changing. Just needed a harmonica. All right, we're gonna sing one last song for you. This song should come as no surprise. This mele was written in 1893 by the request of the Royal Hawaiian Band, following the illegal overthrow and the beginning of the U.S. military occupation in Hawaii on January 17th of 1893. One of the first things the provisional government did is they instated a number of laws through executive order. Really funny. Instated a bunch of new laws. One of those laws required that all public workers sign oaths of allegiance over to this new false government. Now, as you can imagine, most of the people who worked public jobs, and not just Kanaka Maoli, not just Native Hawaiians, but people of all races, right? Hawaii was a multi-ethnic kingdom. Most of those people were not at all interested in signing over their allegiance to this new puppet government. And so people started to leave their jobs en masse. Now, oftentimes when we tell this story, we just talk about the Royal Hawaiian Band, but if you go to the state archives, you can find lists and lists collected by the provisional government of folks who refused to take these oaths of allegiance, who are then going to not only lose their jobs, but be targeted for all kinds of legal and personal harassment. Now, the Royal Hawaiian Band quit their jobs en masse. They said, there's no freaking way we're gonna sign oaths of allegiance to this puppet government, this haole oligarchy of old sugar money that's trying to take over our home. And so they asked their friend, Ellen, they asked her to write a song about their commitment. They asked her to write a song that told the story, not only of the Royal Hawaiian Band, but of all the Aipohaku, all the stone eaters of the Hawaiian Kingdom who were loyal not just to the Queen, but loyal to a number of principles that the provisional government did not hold. Now, as the story goes, this song has become probably one of the most popular, enduring songs of resistance for Hawaiians. The song is also a reminder that our people, the Kanaka Maoli and our allies and our
our fellow citizens of the Kingdom of Hawaii, have been fighting American imperialist power for generations. Today, we might learn something from that endurance, from that steadfastness, in the same way that we should learn something from the sumud of the Palestinian people, who refuse to be removed, who refuse to be anything other than themselves, even in the moments of the most violent live stream genocides we may have ever seen in our lives. And so today I want us to think about what kinds of traditions of resistance we can join in, not just as Kanaka, but as all of us who find ourselves here in this place, in Hawaii, in this moment. Because like I said, we are facing challenges both local, national, and global. And so the way that we fight should be informed by our history in Hawaii. And the way that we fight should be informed by the fact that our kupuna were internationalists in their view of the world. They were internationalists in their view of struggle. And so we want to sing this song. My dad might have some things to say about this as well, but I want to sing this song to honor that tradition, to call all of you, regardless of race, national origin, creed, gender, sexuality, all the words I'm not allowed to say, into that tradition with us. And as a call to Kanaka Maoli, there are too few of us here in this space right now, too few of us who see these issues, these national, global issues, as Hawaiian issues, as a reminder that they too should be here with us.
Thanks so much. I'm just going to say one quick thing about this.
You're not in tune.
Sorry, this should have been more, graceful.
Talk. He said talk. You guys have any questions? We're just vamping here. I want to say something. I want to uplift something that was said earlier during the panel of brilliant organizers and educators who were up here just before us. But one of the speakers reminded us that the issue of Palestinian freedom, not just the issue of ending the genocide, which is a crucial and necessary thing we must fight, but the issue of actual Palestinian freedom, the return of our Palestinian comrades to their ancestral home, their ability to live lives of dignity in Palestine. That issue is a keyhole from which we can see all the other issues we are facing today. We cannot separate the question of Palestine from the question of free speech. We cannot separate the question of Palestine from the question of the vulnerability of international students on our campus. We cannot separate the question of Palestine from the question of our civil rights. If for no other reason that settler colonial, capitalist, white supremacist systems are connected globally, but also for the fact that those who are being targeted in this moment broadly across the United States, in this moment, so many of them in particular on campuses like our own, are those who have stood up bravely on the issue of Palestine. And therefore, we cannot do the work we need to do unless we can talk about Palestine, unless we can teach about Palestine, unless we can have difficult conversations about Palestine, unless we can collectively agree that genocide is abhorrent, and fighting for the end of genocides anywhere could never be an act of anti-Semitism. Fighting for the end of genocide anywhere could never be an act of hate or anti-Semitism.
And it should be obvious to all of us here, all of us Hawaiians, that we cannot separate the issue of the occupation of Palestine from Hawaiian sovereignty. Jamaica and I have been sovereignty activists here in Hawaii, her for most of her life and me for mine. But that issue is not the most significant issue we face as Kanaka in Hawaii today. What we face now is the preservation of our right to be sovereign, It's not the government. It never was the goddamn government. It always was the ability to live in dignity, in peace, the ability to feed ourselves, the self-sufficiency that our ancestors had. That's what it is. And that's what people in Gaza, in Palestine, everywhere in the world that's occupied by others, that's what they deserve.
If you know this song, you better sing along. If you don't know it, look it up. Kaulana Napua. Kaulana Napua o Hawaii. Kupaama hopeo kaina. Hiki mai ka elele o ka loko ina. Palaan me kapaka Kaulana Napua o Hawaii Kupaama hopeo kaina Imai ka elele o ka loko ino Palapalaan me kapaka Panemai awai I moku ke ave Koku ana onoa o pilani Kako o mai kaua I o mano Papu me ke one o ka puhi hewa A olea e kau I ka pulima We will not fix a signature Maunau ka pepa o ka enemy On the paper of the enemy Ho'ohui aina kuai hewa With its sin of annexation Ka pono sivila o ke kanaka And its sale of native civil rights A ole makoa e mina mina Ika pu'u kala o ke aupu We don't care about the government's large sum of money. We are satisfied with the stones. The astonishing food of our land. Aloha ai ka pono kaina Aina ia mai ana ka puana Ka poe ia aloha I ka aina Ahope mako We back Lili'u o Kalani. Aloha ai ka pono kaina Aina ia mai ana ka puana O ka poe Aloha I ka aina Free Palestine, free Hawaii, free your mind.
Mahalo. I would love to introduce you to our next performer, Kawila. Please join me.
Hello, my kako. So what I'm gonna ask you to do, I'm gonna drop the beat for this first song, and I'm gonna need your folks up. We're gonna go a cappella, so I'm gonna need y'all to clap. So we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Pause real quick. Thank you. You have rhythm. Thank the gods. So there's gonna be a chant that you folks can join in on if you're willing. I'm gonna be asking Nakinyakua, the many gods and ancestors of this land, to come here and reign. And what is the line that you'll say? I'm gonna point at you folks as you clap, hopefully on rhythm still. You're gonna say Ola, and Ola, typically we just think of it as meaning light, but in Mele, in song, in chant, it means to incite life. So it's gonna bring more rain than we're getting right now. So I hope y'all are ready. Go hide under a tent if you're scared of rain. You're not made of salt. Well, some of you are. And some of you are salty. If you are, get under a tent. Okay. Gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4. Keep it up. Kinyakua, old and new. I need all of y'all to come on through. Cause Uncle Sam and the settler crew came through saying, right, we got nothing to do. Don't open the bottle, the Apelila swallow. Inu ke kanoa till I hit the bottom. When the kanu kalo hume malo, everybody follow like an IG model. They wanna hollow. The Na'au of a people, live life backwards, last name Kanivo. We know we grow Kupuna Caesar, we the next generation Kupuna Siku. We ain't the gods, we the elements. Trying to take us all, but it can't even decadent. Every time we show up, you know we're gonna be evidence, and you're gonna keep it up till we get the next one. Nyakua, Ola, 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 Mauri Hawaii, Ola, 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 Ivi Kupuna, Ola, 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 Lahui Hawaii. Na'au mākua mai ka lahi ki a ka lākau ki ai mai ka mole kumapua I ka bela. Kua ki awa kua mena kua hone ho'olona I ka ula lea maki a pu. Kini o ke kua e ka lehu o ke kua, ka kalani o ke puku'i o ke kua. E iho e ala, e oni e eo. It's time for us to rise up and rebel. You know how we do, we say F the system. We gon' rise up and go do every wisdom. Every time we throw in the wisdom and our wishes, we gon' do it even if we gotta clean dishes. And I'ma say this one last time, we're gonna do it whether it's in the rain or the shine. Everybody gonna show up, we're gonna fight the crimes of the US and we're gonna keep it on our dime. Kinyakua, Ola, 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 Mauri Hawaii, Ola, Ivi Kupuna, Lahui Hawaii, Raja. Okay, as you folks cover the speakers, I'm gonna, oh look, it did work, there's more rain. I'm sorry. Okay, so in this next melee, I'm gonna need another person to come up here. Her name is Iki Lani, and she's gonna help me share the story about this melee that we co-wrote together. Iki Lani, if you're out there, not under a tent, please come up to the stage. Check that, 1, 2, 1, 2. You know how me and EP do. I'm just taking the time while you cover up the speakers. You know what we're around. Go ahead, EP.
Okay, on the beat already. So this next song we're doing, Oda talked about it a little bit. It's called Pai Aina to Palestine. Us Noi and Kumu John just talked about it, how we can't separate the struggle for Hawaiian sovereignty and the struggle for Hawaiian independence from what's happening
This history of solidarity is nothing new. As a matter of fact, from as far back as the 18th century, we have honeycomb maps and countless new type of Hawaiian newspaper article documents relegating and displaying this awesome history. So we're going to make sure the sound board is good. We don't want anything to fry. But maybe we can run through the hook if that's cool. Yeah? Okay. So the hook goes, free your people, free your mind, deoccupy Hawaii and Palestine. Let's hear it. Free your people, free your mind, deoccupy Hawaii and Palestine. Free your people, free your mind, deoccupy Hawaii and Palestine. Free your people, free your mind, deoccupy Hawaii and Palestine. One more time. Free your people, free your mind, deoccupy Hawaii and Palestine. All right. Okay, we're gonna get this show on the road. While we're getting things set up, I was asked to say a few quick things, so I think I'll do that before the music while we're getting things started. My name is Ihilani Lasconia. I'm from Waimanalo. I'm a proud student of ethnic studies. Is ethnic studies in the house? Women's gender, sexuality studies, and now I'm a grad student in political science. So when we're thinking about art, we're thinking about how art kills fascism, and we think about the attack on education. The education that I received at this institution is a highly politicized one, that I wouldn't come to this education without talking about and learning about sovereignty. And so again, as we're thinking about this attack on education, it's not just about what happens in these institutions, it's the fabric of our society. And this institution here, the University of Hawaii at Mānoa, that claims to be a Hawaiian place of learning and an indigenous serving institution, can they really uphold that mission, vision, and values if they don't allow us to talk about things such as Hawaii and such as Palestine, particularly within conversation with each other? We wanted to dedicate this song to Samaya Awad, an incredible Palestinian artist, activist, and scholar. We wrote this song for her about 4 years ago as a lay that never fades. And so for us, we want to share this with you, but also knowing that songs like these wouldn't come into being if it weren't for that pilina or that relationship that we have. So yeah.
Solid. I have nothing else to say. That concludes our message.
All right. Thanks for rolling with us.
Rock with us, y'all. Put your hands up. Yeah. The same colonial apparatus all around the atlas can be taken down when we organize the masses. Colonialist classics, they belong in caskets. Join Hawaii BDS if you getting serious. It ain't TDS, they're trying to wipe our nations off the GPS. They still got monies for war, and they still not feeding the poor. So we rise up and fight like the land till we bleed from our pores. Free your people, free your mind. Deoccupy Hawaii and Palestine. Free your people, free your mind. Deoccupy Hawaii and Palestine. Free your people, free your mind. Deoccupy Hawaii and Palestine. Free your people, free your mind. Deoccupy Hawaii and Palestine.
No, the anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism, and an weaving ethno-state is not Hawaiian nationalism. And the UN won't save us or grant us these freedoms, because they're just another weapon of the
seven-headed demon.
We may be pinned down by 51 stars.
Liberation's the cause
for those near and those far. We choose to join hands when they only bear arms. So hands off Moku.
Hands off Shikjera. Free your people, free your mind. Deoccupy Hawaii and Palestine. Free your people, free your mind. Get your hands up.
Hawaii and Palestine.
Free your people, free your mind. Deoccupy Hawaii and Palestine. Free your people, free your mind.
Deoccupy Hawaii and Palestine.
From the olive tree to the smallest lohi, they bulldoze the homes of OEV only. Waimanalo, Mākua, Gaza, trying to turn our homelands into a plaza. The shores of this concrete jungle's tied into your ancestral rubble. Ku ika heba ho'oko ika banana. The story of the future's liberation. We the authors. Free your people, free your mind. Deoccupy Hawaii and Palestine. Free your people, free your mind. Deoccupy Hawaii and Palestine. Free your people, free your mind. Deoccupy Hawaii and Palestine. Free your people, free your mind. the occupied Hawaii and Palestine.
So raise your fist high if you want to see through this vision.
Up with the people and down with the system.
Ihuana o Luna,
Ihuana o Lalo.
His two Ahupua, comrades of tomorrow. From olive tree to olive tree, from Niihau to Hawaii, we
See you when you struggle and we don't stop till we all are free. Huana kapaya.
Intifada, intifada, intifada.
For your people, for your mind. The occupied Hawaii and Palestine. For your people, for your mind. The occupied Hawaii and Palestine. One more time. For your people, for your mind. The occupied Hawaii and Palestine. For your people, for your mind. The occupied Hawaii and Palestine. Gotta keep it up on the rhythm. You're gonna lead the chant right now. Go.
When I say land, you say back. Land,
Back,
land,
back,
land,
back,
land,
back,
land,
back,
land.
back.
When I say ola, you say vai. Ola,
Vai,
ola,
vai,
ola.
vai.
Eyo, mahalo everybody. Our struggles are incredibly interconnected. There is no free Hawaii without a free Palestine. And there is no institution that is safe for Kanaka or any person of color or any queer person if we're not able to learn these things. Our job as educators is not to tell you what we think or to show you what to think, but allow you the opportunity to be intellectually curious. And what does it mean when we enter institutions that are banning words like gender, sexuality, Palestine? So for us here today, the art is about the politics and the education has always been about the politics. We can't separate Hawaiian independence from this institution or from this education that we're receiving, regardless of your major. So yeah, mahalo.
Next up, we have UHM Mānoa lecturer Eva Ladner with our third teaching trans studies. Thank you all very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hello. Aloha and welcome. First thing I want to do is acknowledge and recognize all the mahus who have helped me better understand myself, and I appreciate everything they taught me. So I want to acknowledge their presence, even though I closer. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm going to keep my remarks brief, which is kind of laughable. When an academic prefaces that and then goes on and magnum opus. Here we go. When I was a tot, we would sneak down to watch HBO late at night, back when it was a channel and not an app. I would watch the stand-up comics. And on one of those late nights, I discovered what felt like the holy grail of language. It was in rapid succession and simple, and these were the dirty words. I'm speaking directly to George Carlin's 7 words you can't say on TV. Carlin based this skit on something Lenny Bruce has mentioned and gotten arrested for: profane language. Just a refresher for those who don't remember. Hello, Rain. Shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, and tits. Those are the 7 words. Ah, bless my young heart. The Supreme Court debated the use of these words and concluded in 1978 that yep, these are the bad words. All 7 of them. That's it. But now we've got another 250 of them. The list is as absurd as it is overwhelming. None of the 7 original words appear on the list, though trans, transgender, transsexual do. So does non-binary. It's all good. Thank you. Hell, so does gender. And women. But not men. Go figure. In my trans studies class, we're playing bingo cards. We'd hit like 200 of those words. That's without actually trying. I call that an accomplishment. Here's what's funny. Transgender, as a word, does not come into existence until the 1960s. The word then hangs out in the medical community primarily until the 1990s, when the advent of the internet helps with its more widespread circulation. The word transgender then hits the mainstream in the mid-2010s, with more media covering trans folks. Laverne Cox, Janet Mock's, a show like Orange is the New Black, Sean Baker's Tangerine, and now, a decade later, the word is part of the current administration's purge. To paraphrase Hunter S. Thompson, we had all the momentum. We were riding the crest of a high and beautiful wave. So now, less than 5 years later, you can go up on a steep hill and look. And with the right kind of eyes, you can almost see the high water mark. That place where the wave finally broke and rolled back. The rolling back is how transgender became part of the current administration's purge. But its attempts to delete the word are folly. Trans people were around before the word, and they'll still be here regardless of semantical games. Just ask the Mahus who call Hawaii home, or the Pa'apapene in Samoa, or the ladies of Tonga, or third genders on the continent, or Hirjas of South Asia. The list goes on. To go from a word originating in the 60s to being the target for omission in just 60 years is quite the trip for a word. But that's the current word. The state of legislation shows the efforts. In 2025, 854 bills have been introduced in 49 states targeting trans persons. 70 have passed, 737 are still active. Hawaii itself has 5 bills still in process. All of that work is for a population that is estimated at 1.6 million. Consider that the NIH canceled $100 million in research focused on trans health, something vital for further understanding and care, and then declared it would focus research on trans regret. I'll ignore how determining the outcome of research means that it isn't really research at all. Instead, note that less than 1% of trans persons who transition actually show regret. So 1% of 1% of the population. Hardly worth the work. Transitioning is life-saving. Prior to teaching the trans studies class in 2019, it didn't exist. I had no idea what would become of it, and hell, if even anyone would sign up. But I approached the class with a happy optimism of trying to inform, to highlight, and for some, provide an understanding of themselves. And I feel it had been done, I thought it was also a helping hand that I was not afforded originally. Now, 6 years later, the class is additionally a place of resistance, a space for compassion, and an arena for hope. I think the thing that gets me, more than anything, is that for the 250 words that have been placed on the purge list, it is the second aspect of my class that didn't. Studies. Because clearly this administration is afraid of engaging with anything intellectually. Thank you very much.
Next up, we have Hannah Hyman with Political Science and Women, Gender, and Sexuality Studies, introducing the art activity we're having right over here. Thank you all so much.
Hey folks, thank you so much for coming out and staying, because there's kind of a downpour now. So thank you for sticking around. I just wanted to take a second to tell you about the quilting project that we're doing back at that tent there. You can see some of the quilt squares hanging up. There is a very long history of quilt making. Oh, I'm good, thanks though. Yeah, it'll rain, it's fine. A long history of quilt making as a way to, okay, thank you, all right. Share stories, transmit generational knowledge, and to preserve culture. When Queen Liliuokalani was imprisoned, she quilted. When thousands of queer people were dying from HIV and AIDS because the government didn't give a damn, activists quilted. These quilts had moments of joy and moments of sorrow, and they were both resistant and commemorative. And in that spirit, we're trying to use quilting as another mode of resistance too. But hopefully, ours will just be joyful. The Trump administration wants to kill these words, to stamp them out, and to stop us from using that. But we're not going to let that happen. Because not only are we going to keep using them in the speeches and the poetry workshop that's going to happen soon, which is going to be real cool, stick around, right? But not only are we going to keep using them, but we're going to write them, we're going to make them beautiful, and we're going to hang them up for everybody to see. So if you're at all artistically inclined, please feel free to stop by the tent back there, make Quilt Square, have fun, and fight some fascism. Thank you, folks.
So now I've introduced two people without introducing myself, which is a faux pas, so I'm going to do that right now. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Junho An. I am one of the people affiliated with this event. I'm in political science. I'm also one of the press people. So make sure that if you have anybody who is with press, to notify one of the individuals with the orange vests. I'm not in orange, I'm in bright yellow, still just as visible. Up next, we have one of my favorite people doing our poetry workshop, Words That Matter, our 2023-2025 Poet Laureate, Professor with American Studies, and someone truly inspiring, Brendan-Law Dougal.
Aloha, Junho is one of my favorite people too. Just wanted to say that publicly as well. And so many amazing people who came up here before me. Mahalo nui to all of you who spoke before. And then mahalo nui to all of you for being here. Mahalo nui to all of the organizers. I wanted to echo something that Ihilani Lasconia said a little earlier when she was speaking about how her and Kawila created that amazing mele and described it as a lei that will never fade. Okay, and I think that's important for us to always remember. It's our poetry, our words, our songs, our stories, our leis that will never fade. And they can also never be taken from us. They can never be taken from us. Poetry is great, and what I love about poetry is that if you need any space to calm yourself down, to not feel so anxious, to not feel so fearful, to not feel so angry, and you need to process all of that negative energy that might be directed to you or to people you love, poetry is a good space to hold that for you so it doesn't have to eat you up inside. So I hope you take me up on today's poetry workshop and write your own poem. This poetry workshop special in that we are going to use the words that matter, the words that they're trying to take away from all of us, the words that are somehow being flagged as wrong, that are being taken from us to describe our identities, our diversity, all of these amazing things that make us who we are and make us beautiful, make us powerful. So I'd welcome you to use these words, okay, when we do these poetry prompts. So I think, hopefully, I know Colin Mai about the beautiful rain that's blessing us right now, but there should be kind of like little squares with poetry prompts maybe going around. I think also there should be index cards of multiple colors going around as well with pencils. Also, you might see larger sheets of paper that are 8.5 by 11. On each of these papers are some of the words that matter, that have been flagged, that there are attempts to ban as words. Okay, so I encourage you to kind of take one of each of these things. If you're so inclined to write a poem of your own, and like I said, and like Ihilani reminded us earlier, these are things that will never fade. Okay, and they can never take our songs, they can never take our poetry, they can never take our stories away from us. Okay, these are the things that last forever. Okay, So these are the poetry prompts. Everybody's getting, how many of you are still waiting for maybe some paper and stuff to come around? Oh, we're halfway through. Okay, okay. Folks on this side, it's coming, it's coming. Okay. All right, but I can start maybe kind of going over some of the poetry prompts and you can get them in your head first, okay? Just so you know, I'm gonna read, I have about 5 poetry prompts here, okay? And that they're also written down on these sheets of paper, so if you don't get to hear me kind of read them out loud because you're concentrating on other things or you're trying to look for the index cards or whatever, know that it can come around, and then also you can share with other folks that are there. But after I read through these poetry prompts, I'm also going to be shouting out some of these words that matter, okay? And they'll just be random, and feel free to incorporate them into your poetic writing as you're bringing them in, okay? Think of these, this is not your high school classroom poetry writing exercise, okay? So don't stress over it. This is just something for you to kind of let the creativity flow and let you express yourself in the most beautiful, most creative way possible. So whatever comes to you is poetry in that moment, okay? If you're opening yourself up to all of the mana'o that's been shared today, all of the love and peace and safety that has been wished upon everyone here today, you're already there in that creative space and able to kind of welcome it in, okay? So let it just flow through you. It is not your job to be criticizing what comes out, okay? That's not what we're here for. We're here to just let ourselves express freely. And that's what we always should be here for, okay? Mahalo. Okay, so here are the poetry prompts for words that matter. Okay. The first one is, choose one of the words that matter. Use it to write an acrostic poem. Begin by writing the word vertically and create lines that use each letter. This is probably the first poetry assignment you're taught when you're in elementary school, where you take a word, usually it's your name, right? And you write all the letters vertically, and then you create words that describe yourself, right? This time we're taking one of the words that matter, one of the words that they're attempting to take from us, and you're using that to describe you, okay? So you write the word vertically, and then you describe yourself using the letters from that word. So one letter from each line, okay? Okay. You guys all know what an acrostic poem is. You guys, this should be familiar, right? Okay. All right. The second one is probably the second poetry assignment you've ever gotten, probably also in elementary school, which is to write a haiku. So you're gonna write a haiku, a 3-line poem, following the 575 syllables per line, describing something you saw or heard at today's event, and using 2 to 3 words that matter. So think about all the things that you might have seen, maybe some of the booths you visited, something you heard somebody up here come up and say. We had so many amazing, brave, beautiful speakers come up and share such awesome mana'o, yeah? That's worth writing and rewriting about and capturing in a moment with a poem, like a haiku, okay? Third one, write a blessing for peace and safety for a loved one, for a group of people, for Aina, or for everyone, using the words that matter, okay? A lot of the folks that came up here already, a lot of the creative people who performed, Kumujan and Heoli Osorio, Ihilani Laskonia, Koila Mahi, and Ava, also as a very creative person, but did not share her creative work. There's a lot of creative energy up here. I'm feeling it, you know, but let that, they all like spoke to this blessing for peace and safety. All were calls for peace and safety. So let that inspire you as well. Okay, number 4, write a poem that begins with and repeats these words. You can't take. You can't take. Okay, so feel free to do as many you can't takes as possible. You can't take, and then add in whatever word from the list of words that matter that you want to include in there. You can't take. You can't take. You can't take. Okay? Shoot for at least 3 of those you can't takes. And then consider ending. You could keep going with you can't take, but consider ending with a line that begins, you can only give. You can only give. And figure out what it is that the you can only give. Okay? And that'll be your last line. All right, and then finally, describe what a better, fairer, safer, and more peaceful future for all of us could look like. Okay, describe what that bright future is for all of us. It's important as creative people that we're always keeping that hope going, that we're always painting a picture for those of us who are not feeling hope, that there can be hope, that there can be, as Heoli said earlier, there can be a safe place for all of us. There can be safety. There can be ways in which we can speak freely, right? There can be a free Palestine. There can be an end to all genocides around the world. These are things that we have to believe, and part of our work as creative people is to bring them into being through our words and to write about them. Okay? All right. Okay, so you have your assignments, right? Everybody has an index card and pencil. Okay, so go ahead and get writing. Get writing right now. And as you start writing, as I mentioned before, I'm going to be reading out some of these words that matter. Feel free to use them as you need them. Okay? So start now if you haven't already. Mahalo. Kalamai, I know it's hard if you have to be under a tent somewhere or under an umbrella. Okay. These are just some of the words that matter. Immigrants. Immigrants. Inclusivity. Allyship. Assigned at birth. Activism. Accessibility. Breastfeed. Clean energy. Non-binary. Community. Diversity. Racial inequality. Pronouns. Disability. Transgender. Fetus. Feminism. Trauma. Tribal. Stereotypes. Women. vulnerable, underrepresented, Gulf of Mexico, victim, identity, COVID-19, multicultural, minority, health disparity, health equity, segregation, environmental justice, entitlement, peanut allergies, discrimination, pregnant people, person, or persons, and I'm going to end with this one. Political. And just want to leave you with this as you kind of continue to work on your poems. I hope you find a way to share them with people, share them with your community, share them with folks next to you who you want to make community with, share them with your ohana, share them with people you love, share them with all of us so we could see what beauty and creativity you've brought into the world just so quickly like this, okay? Mahalo, everybody. Just wanted to, I ended with political because I wanted to share that, of course, the political is always personal. It always is. It always has the face of your auntie, your uncle, your friend, everybody. It has your own face. That's what political is. It's all of us, all the time. And so showing up for each other and also showing up for future generations, that's what it's all about. All right, mahalo nui and aloha huiho.
As somebody with a peanut allergy, knowing that that's on the list is fascinating to me. I guess I'm just not allergic anymore. There you go. I'm gonna have a PB&J after this, we'll see what happens. Well, we have a moment. I'd like to go over our community guidelines real quick as we continue on with our event. I had a piece of paper, but it's gone. Let me pull that up as we're speaking. I think the rain is also going away, so thank you, Brandy. I'm going to say that Brandy did that. No, it's still here. It's still on me, for sure. So, do respect Kanakamoli Aina and Ea and keep the area clean. Do remain courteous and respectful, and do mask up to protect yourself and others. Do direct media to anywhere wearing an orange vest. I'm not in orange, but once again, direct media towards me, Dean. Do only speak for yourself and not for others, and do come with an open mind and be ready to make some art. I expect to see all of those poems. Do not engage or provoke agitators. We've thankfully not seen many, but we should always be aware that this is an attitude that we should be holding of ourselves. Do not engage with media or press. Do not engage with campus security. Do not photograph people's faces without their affirmative consent. Do not participate in racism, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, anti-indigeneity, anti-blackness, gendered or sexual violence, ableism, or any other kind of discrimination. Do not use alcohol, drugs, or smoke, and do not block pathways or doorways. Thank you for abiding by these community guidelines. It keeps us safe, it keeps us respectful, and it keeps our community together. Next up, we are going to have a series of speeches and performances. I'd like to call up Emma Watson with the Student Solidarity Network. Thank you.
Aloha mai kako. Aloha mai kako. My name is Hema Kealoha Nui Kayama Watson. I'm from the Student Solidarity Network. Our tent's right over there with the green, called green. Red tablecloth, been a long day. I'm also part of ASUH, the Associated Students of the University of Hawaii. That's a student government here for undergraduates, the vice chair of the finance committee. Solidarity forever. What does that mean, right? Okay, is everyone familiar with that phrase, solidarity forever? Can everyone say it with me? Solidarity forever? Solidarity forever. I need more strength. Solidarity forever? Solidarity forever. Ew. It means that, no matter what, I got you. It means that whether or not I have a jacket, I'll stand in the rain for you. It means that your struggle is my struggle. And it's what we need right now. Because without that, who has our backs? Right? It's the reason why me and others started the Student Solidarity Network. Does everyone remember the day that Donald Trump said, okay, I'm gonna cut all the student federal aid because of the DEI woke policy, blah, 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 blah. Everyone remember that day? I mean, I definitely do. That day, we didn't even know what we were gonna do, but we had a, just in our minds and our hearts, we knew that we had to do something. So we did a rally down at Campus Center. And we got hundreds of students to come with us. They didn't even know what was going on, but they knew it was important. They knew that what had to be done together. We marched to Bachman Hall and we said, hey, we need an answer from UH now. And when the answer they gave us was subpar, but they gave us an answer. And that was because we stood together. That's because we did it together. Without us doing it together, it would have never, ever happened. When the Office of Civil Rights from the Department of Uneducation currently sent UH a letter saying that basically we couldn't have cultural graduations because they're quote unquote segregated, right? We know that's wrong. We know that's false. But here's an example of non-solidarity. The UH administration, because I'm in ASUH, they told us that maybe we shouldn't fund some of the clubs that we were gonna fund. Maybe we shouldn't have them on those lists because maybe they did fall into that agenda that Trump wanted to X out. They didn't stand with us. They didn't tell us, hey, you know what? We're gonna help you out. We're gonna find a way so that these guys can be funded. They told us, oh, maybe don't do that. Maybe abandon your fellow students. So we told them, fuck no. We funded all of them. I'm super happy to say that we didn't take them out. We didn't put them under unnecessary legal counsel for no goddamn reason. But I want to show you that solidarity is more than just a word. It's a mindset. It's an ideology. It's a way of being. It's that even if it seems it's like the easier option, oh, it's going to cause less harm, or oh, it's going to be easier, not so much of a headache, that doesn't matter. You stand with your people. You stand with your people no matter what, because when you're down, they got you, right? Because if no one else is here, who got you? If no one else is standing behind you, if you abandon everyone else, is anybody gonna have your back? No. The only way people are gonna have your back is if you stand with them too, and show them that you'll show up when they're in need, so then that they will show up when you're in need. And so, I really would like to implore everybody here to come check out our booth, Student Solidarity Network. We are taking people in, right? We love everybody. We're definitely not gonna not support you. We love everyone. We want to make sure that everyone else is included. And a little plug, I also want to say, I'm currently in ASUH right now, and our ASUH president is graduating this semester. I will be running for ASUH president. So if you want a candidate that supports you, supports students' rights, is gonna fight for you, is stuck with everyone, solidarity forever, you got one right here. Yeah, I got your back, if you got mine. Yeah, so I want to mahalo everybody for coming. This is super important. It may seem for some people, oh, this is small. No, this is important. This shows that we got each other. This shows that the people around you, the faces next to you, the people to your right, the people to your left, the people behind you, the people in front of you, those are the people that are gonna show up. Those are the people that count, right? Those are your friends. Those are your family. And we have to think like that every time. Because if we don't, then we're gonna forget who really matters. Us. Not me, not I, not you, we. Everyone say with me, solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Mahalo.
Thank you so much, Emma. Next up, we have Derek Rainey with Academic Labor United, also known as ALU.
Hello, everyone. My name is Derek Rainey. I am here representing Academic Labor United. We have our tent back there. We're turning out buttons. Please join us for an ALU button if you would like. You can also design your own. I'm just here today to share some remarks that were given this morning at the most recent Board of Regents meeting. Here we go. Good morning, Regents and President Hensel. Since appearing and offering testimony at the last Board of Regents meeting, I, along with several other graduate student workers, had the opportunity to speak informally and off the record with a senior member of UH administration. As part of this conversation, it was suggested to us that previous increases to the GA pay step minimum have cost the university something in the range of $2 million, a figure that represents approximately 0.2% of the $1.3 billion budget that is made up of tuition and state-awarded funds. It was suggested that to ask the legislature for funding to increase GA pay could upset legislators and a budgeting process that appears to keep asking for more. Though of course it would only be an additional ask because a GA living wage has not only not been prioritized, but has been left out of budget proposals entirely. This administrator suggested the best approach for incremental increases to GA pay is increased enrollments. Leaving aside that increased enrollments necessarily imply increased need for GAs at any rate of pay, I wonder how many other positions at UH we compensate based on year-over-year enrollment figures. Are administrators or faculty paid less in years with enrollments below a certain threshold? Are groundskeeping and custodial staff, essential workers of this campus, paid less in years with fewer bodies? Why should GAs be uniquely suited to such a compensation structure? A point on which I had to agree with this administrator. If UH chooses to value its GAs, if it decides the necessary labor, the operational labor we provide is worth a living wage, it will choose to find a way to pay for it. For UH not to be doing so already and to have proposed no plans to do so in the future tells us everything we need to know about how UH has valued our labor. It is disappointing the salary schedule for GA pay posted on UH's website only imagines up to step 30, a rate that represents a minimal but living wage for the area, a rate that UH has shown no intention of reaching anytime soon. That UH has failed to imagine beyond a minimum living wage and considers even that such a distant possibility that it very likely will no longer be a living wage by the time it is reached shows a deep lack of concern for GAs. A deep lack of value for our work by the university, and certainly nothing like a prioritizing of students among the many challenges UH has been and continues to face. Already, they have allowed that GAs with the same job title, same standing, same qualifications, and same merit can be paid wildly different salaries. This has been allowed in response to the perceived value of different departments, an inequity that UH has chosen to reflect in the compensation of similarly positioned and titled public employees. UH should not fold itself into the mechanisms of inequity or allow itself to become a tool for replicating those inequities. No member of UH upper-level administration has offered a moral, ethical, or even affirmative argument for why GAs should be exposed to such treatment and conditions. I think it is because they do not have one. I think it is because there isn't one. If that is the case, that cannot be a concern for them to put off onto higher enrollments, future budget requests, or a more amenable federal leadership. It must be a concern that they choose to resolve now. Step 30 for all, step 30 now. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Up next, I'm going to introduce our next speaker, as well as our next MC. This is it for me. I'll still be around. I'll be doing the press stuff. We have Misty coming up to be our next MC, and our next speaker is going to be Elizabeth Colwell, a professor with American Studies. This teaching on fascism and the erasure of history is going to be a pretty vital one to work with. But here's Misty.
Hi, I'm not that tall. Hold on. Aloha mai kako. Yeah, naim baga Adelio. My name is Misty. I'm a member of Anak Bayan Hawaii. We're a Filipino youth org, but before we begin, I know the rain has kind of settled. It's taken a break. So I want to invite everyone to either come to the center if you're comfortable, stand up if you're comfortable, but yeah, I want to hear your guys' voices. Is that okay? Cool? Okay. We're going to do a quick chant series. Some of you might be familiar with it. I'm not sure, but it's pretty easy to follow along. So when I say, when students' rights are under attack, what do? You guys will say, thank you for the example. Okay, beautiful. So you guys are already kind of familiar. Okay. We're going to do a quick succession before we introduce our next wonderful speaker, okay? Okay. When students' rights are under attack, what do? When faculty's rights are under attack, what do? When trans rights are under attack, what do? When immigrants' rights are under attack, what do? When human rights are under attack, what do? Hell yeah. Okay. Beautiful. Thanks all for joining in that. And with that, I would like to introduce the wonderful Professor Elizabeth Colwell, who will be talking to us about fascism and the erasure of history. There we go.
Good to be here, great to see you. If some more folks want to move up closer, it feels mighty weird to be talking to people way back, but nonetheless, stay dry. So my theme for today from a map to the door of no return. Getting closer? Okay. And this is Brand. One enters a room and history follows. One enters a room and history precedes. History is already seated in the chair in the empty room when one arrives. Where one stands in a society always seems related to this historical experience. How do I know this? Only by self-observation, only by looking, only by feeling, only by being a part, sitting in the room with history. We are living in an era of the erasure of history, an era of the disappeared. Disappeared archives, disappeared data, disappeared students, disappeared history. Disappeared are many websites. The Trump administration began to scrub crucial websites from the first day in office, including reproductiverights.gov, the U.S. government website offering resources on abortion. Pages of the CDC website are missing, including including ones about ending gender-based violence and supporting LGBT youth. Whole databases have disappeared. The Department of Justice, for example, removed a database detailing criminal charges and convictions related to the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol. Disappeared are documents that have been shredded. For example, USAID document, a senior official told employees to shred or burn classified documents and personnel files. Under assault are libraries, our archives. The head of the National Archives was fired by Trump. Books have been disappeared. For example, in school libraries on military bases all over the world, books were removed for a week for a compliance review. You will be delighted to know that one of the books flagged as dangerous was No Truth Without Ruth, a biographical picture book about Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Okay. So, exhibitions and web pages at monuments and museums have also disappeared without warning. Here's one example of that. Despite the central role played by transgender people in the Stonewall Uprising of 1969 against police persecution of queer and gender nonconforming people, it was a critical moment in the history of the movement. Unbelievably, the T in LGBT was erased from the Stonewall Memorial website. And so were the biography pages of two trans women, in particular, Marsha Johnson and Sylvia Rivera, who are leaders in the rebellion. And then, on March 27th, 2025, Trump released yet another executive order entitled Restoring Truth and Sanity to American History, denouncing historians and taking aim especially at the Smithsonian Institution, criticizing the Smithsonian for promoting a corrosive, and I quote here from the document, a corrosive, divisive, race-centered ideology harmful to American values. They suggested, the EO suggested instead, that they celebrate, and I quote once again, our nation's unparalleled legacy of advancing liberty, individual rights, and human happiness. I hope you appreciate that one. All right, so note the irony. While insisting on its own ideological take on the nation's history, the executive order criticizes the Smithsonian as engaging in an effort to rewrite history. Those same EOs also prompted the United States National Park Service to begin scrubbing information about Harriet Tubman and Black leadership in the Underground Railroad, the covert network of safe houses, travel routes, and people who risked their lives to help enslaved folks escape chattel slavery. Now, of course, telling the history of the Underground Railroad as the history of white saviors doesn't make it true. History is not mere ideology, it is not mere opinion. History is an interpretive discipline, but our interpretations must be rooted in the evidence. Consider the hypocrisy of the Dear Colleague letter sent by the Acting Assistant Secretary of the Department of Education, Office for Civil Rights, who on February 14th, Valentine's gift, I guess, sent to all university administrators a document that appropriates the language of the civil rights movements, equal opportunity, anti-discrimination, etc., to benefit white Asian men while erasing the history of injustice and inequality that spawned the civil rights movement of Black, Latino, Indigenous, and queer people to begin with. It's hard to believe, and yet true, that they criticize the universities for imposing ideological conformity while they strip websites, grants, and research projects from now forbidden words, and a long list of them. So if I had time, I would tell you more about the forms of resistance, because in every single one of the instances that I just cited, there was resistance. There were demonstrations. There was such an outcry about the messing with Harriet Tubman's website on the Underground Railroad site. They put it back in, right? People are having victories. There were massive protests against the firing of the director of the National Archives. So people are waking up, people are paying attention, people are watching. And also, when the Stonewall Memorial was desecrated by the erasure of that T, hundreds of people gathered in Greenwich Village to protest. But of course, being as old as I am, I think back to the history of student movements on the continent and also here in the 1970s and the 1980s and the 90s. Student movements on the continents sprang up, and they were student movements. They sprang up in high schools and colleges, and they insisted upon telling the histories of their own people, histories that were absent largely from published histories. And students took action. They walked out. They were joined on the streets by workers and unions and grassroots organizations and families. And in Hawaii, students, artists, tenants, workers, kupuna joined in a resistance and a resurgence devoted to the reclamation of history and language, land and culture, and sovereignty. So a lot of things came out of those movements, many, many things. And among them, the departments of Women's Studies, Black Studies, Chicano Studies, Indigenous Studies, and here in Hawaii, Hawaii Nui Akea eventually. Every victory was precarious and hard-won, and no victory can be taken for granted. No victory is permanent. So today, there have been, or this week, there have been thousands of students and faculty and staff, and finally, some administrators as well at dozens of universities across the country who are banding together and refusing to kneel to Trump, insisting upon their own First Amendment rights and those of their students, the right to speak, the right to protest, the history of academic freedom. And in this moment, with you being here, you too are making history, building relationships with place and with one another over time, time enough to sustain whatever is going to come. Just know that this is the continuation of a much longer struggle. So in this present then, what does Trump want in any case? It seems that he aims for a sanitized history, cleansed of race and gender, a cheerful history of progress and heroes, men of course, and courage and achievement, men, perhaps a couple of exceptional women, a history of greatness, what he calls a patriotic history. But whose history is that? To use the government to suppress the histories of chattel slavery, oppression of immigrants, of racism, of queer histories, of dispossession, of empire. That doesn't erase the realities. Instead, it adds to the ongoing violation of bodies, lands, nations, and lives. It adds to all of those things the violence of erasure. There is no justice, there is no repair without historical truth, restitution, reparations. So we are living in such Orwellian times that I felt called upon to quote Orwell himself from 1984. And here's the quote: "Who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past." So know this, and here I get to the fascism part. Fascists normalize violence. They naturalize hierarchy. They use seduction, threats, and corruption to control the media and intimidate the opposition. They find scapegoats. They generate emergencies to sow fear and chaos. They undermine elections and their opposition. They promise greatness through domination. They police sexuality and femininity. They use masculinity as a tool of power and political legitimacy. They build a cult of personality. Sound familiar? Anybody fit? If the shoe fits, is what I say. So, a central goal throughout all of that is to control education, to control history, and to control the production of knowledge itself. To rewrite history is an attempt to control public memory. And the Trump administration knows that silencing the past impedes the ability of a people to know its history, its language, its traditions of resistance. Trump, after all, is great empire builder, isn't he? He wants to take ownership of the Gaza Strip and develop it into the Riviera of the Middle East. No doubt he also wants us to forget that the Hawaiian kingdom never ceded its sovereignty to the U.S.
No.
But Kanaka, we remember, in letters and newspapers and songs and mo'olelo and genealogies, their genealogies carry those histories of interconnection, of care and resistance. So, I was talking to some of my students and colleagues over lunch yesterday. We were sitting outside, and as every good teacher does who can't come up with an idea, I turned to my students and I said, well, what should I say at this thing tomorrow? And Scott, who's sitting right there, said something like, and forgive me for butchering your words, Scott, to be distanced from history as Trump seems to want to do, also distances people from people of other nations, distances us from other people. And Derek reminded me of a book we read, Disappearing Rooms, about the criminalization of race in immigration courts, which spoke to the value of presence, the power of the act of accompaniment in times of fear, in times of despair. And Noelle spoke of history as cultivating connections and relationships across time and space. And she and Kath referred me to a beautiful article called Talking to the Dead that invites us to reconsider life as a collective of interweaving relationships. So I guess my question for you all is, or for myself really, is how does it open up our conception of history to think of history as listening to and talking with the dead, including those dead but not deceased, whose lives in this society are somehow considered expendable? What if we were to think of history as an ongoing exchange, an act of presence, of accompaniment, of witness? So by way of conclusion, I want to tell you a story to which I bore witness more than a decade ago on a research trip to Haiti. And I was suffering from some illness at the time, some traveler's bug, and so I stayed in that day. I didn't go to the archive. I stole up to the roof of the orphanage where I was living with this stack of newly purchased books on the Haitian Revolution for company. And a man about my age came up there, and he was hauling a mop and a pail, and he was a very handsome man, looked very tired, his face was lined. He clearly was a man who had lived. And he glanced over my way. He wasn't interested in me. It turned out what he was interested in was those books. And he calmly ventured over and then began to speak. Oh, he said, you're interested in my country. It has a proud history. A history of Black Revolution. Ours was a history, the first successful anti-slavery, anti-colonial revolution. Voila, he said, reading the covers of books in 3 languages, Creole, French, and English. One is by a French author, he said, the other is Haitian. And then he stopped and he told me a little bit about his own story. He'd been a high school teacher who had been fired during what he called the Troubles, political violence. He'd become, to political authorities, one more expendable. His situation was nothing but precarious. But although he doubted he'd ever return to his chosen profession, the money he earned at his labor, he said very proudly to me, he said, I am putting my daughter through school. And if you know the situation there, you know that to put your daughter through school, now that is one big deal. So for this man, whose name I never learned, his history was a source of pride, of dignity, of hope. Not the false hope of recognition, much less rescue, but a hope that his history would be remembered, his knowledge carried on. And it meant something to him that those who had come before had suffered for a worthy cause, and his efforts too were worthy. So last comment then. Derek Walcott, the Nobel Prize winner born in the Caribbean island of St. Lucia, once said, half of life is living, the other half is memory. How we choose to remember, how we construct our relationships to the past and our present may determine the course of our future. But for this moment, my advice Remember those 3 forbidden words that then turned into 100 forbidden words and then turned into 250 forbidden words, all right? Write them, sing them, shout them, recite them aloud and often and alone and with your friends. Do not back down. Thank you for listening today, everybody.
Thank you for one more round of applause. Thank you so much. And with that, we're going to move on to some speeches from our very esteemed faculty who will be joining us today. So first up, I'd like to call up Manang Nadine. Come on, let's hear those claps. Woo!
Hi everyone. Aloha mai kako. My name is Nadine Ortega. I'm here because Filipinos are the highest percentage of immigrants in Hawaii. We have the highest percentage of undocumented immigrants in Hawaii. Hawaii is the only place in quote-unquote US where majority of immigrants are women. I'm also an immigrant, and I'm scared as hell to be here. But if I don't speak up, who else will? I'm an instructor in the Ilocano program here at UH. I'm also a political science graduate student. I'm also the co-founder of Tagnawa, a feminist environmental justice organization bridging West Maui to West Oahu. The United States is the great Judas, the Brutus, the Senator Palpatine of history. It arrived in the Philippines not as a liberator, but as a thief in the night, stealing the independence our ancestors bled for, breaking its word and showing its true form. With the same imperial hand, it seized Guahan, Borigen, and before that, Hawaii, and then stitched our stolen lands into one grotesque quilt of empire. Filipinos were never meant to be free after our independence, only convenient. The US molds our political existence like clay, shaping us into nationals without a nation, subjects without sovereignty, independence without power. We are brought close enough to serve, kept distance enough to discard. Our bodies become the fuel for its machinery, shipped across oceans to till its fields, nurse its sick, die in its wars. We are the invisible hands holding up its sky, yet kicked out, deported at its whim. But we are not just labor. We are not just bodies. We are the descendants of a people who fought for 333 years and won. We are the children of those who stared down American rifles and never surrendered. Now here, in the empire's shadow, in its steel and concrete belly, we island people have a sacred and ancient task to dismantle it from within. The fight is not an ocean away. It is here, in the classroom, stripped of funding, in the homes of our friends who flee because they are no longer safe, in the trembling hands of my nephew who wonders if tomorrow will be the day they come for him. I refuse. I refuse a world where education is a privilege and deportation is policy. I refuse a world where my people are pushed out, not just by rising rents, but by rising hate, by the suffocating fear that who we are is a crime. I refuse a world where a child learns to check the news before he checks his pulse, where survival means weighing self-deprecation against the terror of being torn from his family. But refusal is not enough. We must remember our struggles are not isolated. The same empire that cages children at the border villages in Gaza. The same system that evicts Kanaka Maoli from their lands extracts us from our homeland and gentrifies our neighborhoods in West Oahu and West Maui. Capitalism, colonialism, white supremacy, they're not separate monsters. They are one beast with many hands. Sorry, I'm trembling. So we will fight, not as fragments, but as a storm, with history as our compass and each other as our armor. We will tear down the walls that try to divide us, because the empire fears nothing more than the people it exploits finally seeing each other, finally rising together to demand not just survival, but liberation. Woo! And when we do, it will not be the end of our story, it will be the beginning. So we need you, we need us together. Join Tagnawa, my org. Thank you.
I feel like the only way to come after that is another chant. What do you think? Yeah? Okay. This one y'all might know too. So I'll say, the people united. You'll say? Yes. Go. The people united. Will never be defeated. The people united. Will never be defeated. Okay, we're gonna switch up languages. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. Beautiful. Now we'll go to Filipino. Ang tao, ang bayan. Yeah. Ang tao, ang bayan. Beautiful. Okay, with that, I'm gonna introduce our next speaker for today. Dean Sarnillo, if you can hear me. Yes. Let's all give him a round of applause while he's heading up here. In the meantime, I would also like to recognize our community members who have joined us here today. We have a lot of student orgs, but we also have folks from the community because we know we do not exist in a vacuum here on campus. So I'd like to shout out Refuse Fascism over there. Woo. And we have Americans for Democratic Action, 5051 right over there, who have a really cool art setup. So if y'all feel like it, please drop by these booths. So yeah, thank you.
My name is Dean Saranilio. I'm from the island of Maui. I teach in the Department of Political Science. We have been organizing quite a bit as a department. We've been meeting weekly. We've been putting on different kinds of events, dropping banners, Art Kills Fascism. But we've also passed resolutions. And the Mānoa Faculty Senate passed our resolution. And so I'll talk about that in a little bit. But let me first begin by trying to provide some context for the resolution that we passed. It hasn't been 100 days since the Trump regime has been in power. And I use the word regime because people refer to them as an administration. They are not an administration. They govern through coercion and fear. They are unlawful. They are an autocratic regime. I think we are all absolutely in agreement on that. So not even 100 days, people are being abducted, imprisoned, and potentially deported. Disappearing people with no criminal record, who are legally in the United States to potentially lethal concentration camps in El Salvador. And they are using artificial intelligence to achieve their aims. And so this is actually what Carol Caldwell has said, that we are already living inside the architecture of totalitarianism. They have been using social media accounts, they have been using all the information that we have been long giving them, and they're now using that against us. This is exactly why Musk and Doge has been gathering information, and this is unprecedented. The amount of information that they're able to gain through the government is unprecedented, and they're going to use that against us, right? And so AI is deciding who loses jobs, which student is determined to be a threat to foreign policy and seemingly deserving of imprisonment and deportation, like Mahmoud Khalil and Ozturk, Ramesa Ozturk, who lives and who dies. As is the case with Abrego Garcia, who is in the United States lawfully, but the unlawful Trump regime has sent him and others to a concentration camp in El Salvador. And I refer to it as a concentration camp because that is the definition of what that is. If Congress and the media cannot get access to that camp, it's a concentration camp. That is the right term for that. And I also want to say, because I think a lot of this does have to do, right, with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that was passed in 2017, and it's going to expire at the end of this year. That is why Doge is in the Treasury, right? But this is more than money. They are enjoying themselves. They are getting pleasure out of this. You can see it in the faces of Trump and the other dictator from El Salvador smiling while saying they want to extend deportation to US citizens. You can see it in the sending of the Dear Colleague letter threatening the elimination of federal funding to universities, which was sent on Valentine's Day. Or let me quote Russell Vought. Russell Vought is the architect of Project 2025. Russell states about federal workers, quote, "We want to put them in trauma." These are the people in charge of this regime. This is what we are up against. And so 70% of the world currently lives under an authoritarian regime. And whether it's in the Philippines or Hungary, the activists from those spaces tell us that you are at your strongest at the beginning of the regime, not at the end. And so we are at our strongest now, which is why it's incredibly important for all of us to organize and be united in this moment. And so I'm a member of the Faculty Senate. I'm on the Committee for Professional Matters. That's the committee that is specifically tasked with the issue of academic freedom. And so when we first began writing the resolution, it was a resolution about the scrubbing of websites. But over the weeks, things changed so quickly that we had to talk about the disappearance of students and the vulnerability of international students, faculty, and staff. And so we wrote this resolution. It was about to be heard, so it just got heard yesterday. It was passed. But thank you. But last week, we heard from the president that students from this university got their visas revoked. And so as a result of that, we needed to write a letter so that the administration could hear our demands more quickly. So we wrote that letter in 1 day's time. After 1 day, it gathered 36 signatures. After 5 days, it's over 130 plus signatures. And these are signatures not just from Mānoa, it's across the UH campus, it's across the UH system. West Oahu, Leeward Community College, UH Maui, UH Hilo, they are signing on and they are absolutely in solidarity with everything that we are doing at Mānoa. And so, if you don't mind, I'm just gonna describe read some of our demands. But just yesterday, we also received a letter from President Hensel, and I'll also share that letter that she wrote. Okay? So, we asked that the UH administrative leadership continue supporting academic freedom and all forms of free speech, including curriculum, by publicly defending any faculty, staff, or student should they come under attack for practicing their First Amendment rights protected under the U.S. Constitution. The U.S. Thank you. Be it resolved that UH staff be assigned to check the Student and Exchange Visit Information System, SEVIS, daily. If a student visa is revoked, UH administration should immediately alert the student. Be resolved that if a UH student has their visa revoked, that UH administrative leadership keeps said student enrolled in our university despite pressure by the Student and Exchange Visitor Program to unenroll a student. This decision is ultimately up to our university. We requested that UH administrative leadership will not provide the personally identifiable information of individual faculty, staff, or student members since Title VI investigations by the Department of Education does not require the University of Hawaii to provide such information. That UH administrative leadership will provide immigration support for faculty, staff, and students subject to governmental discipline or deportation, including contacts of immigration attorneys and funding to support representation. Other institutions, such as the University of California, have already hired immigration attorneys to assist the university communities under these new political circumstances. That given federal government's use of artificial intelligence to identify campus protesters, university administrators will not share data, including photos, emails, and video footage extracted from any surveillance of campus protests or assemblies. In the absence of litigation, any data related to campus protesters and/or assemblies should be deleted and not stored. That UH administration will refuse overly broad definitions of anti-Semitism, including the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, IRA's definition that equates criticisms of the State of Israel with anti-Semitism. That UH administrative leadership will continue to recognize that the state of Hawaii and the United States of America have a political relationship with Kona, which manifests in the University of Hawaii remaining a Native Hawaiian place of learning. That UH administrative leadership will commit to protecting LGBTQ+ and DEIA efforts and issues, and that the UH administrative leadership will commit to ensuring that internal grievance complaint procedures, especially those based on Title VI, include adequate procedural safeguards. For example, people should not be locked out of their campus housing or prevented access to any university services or resources while being subject to an investigation. This is what happened at NYU, which is the university that I used to work at, where students were being locked out of their housing. Okay, so this is the letter from Hensel just sent yesterday. Aloha colleagues, mahalo for your thoughtful letter expressing your deep care and concern for our non-citizen students, faculty, and staff. I write today in that same spirit of shared commitment to respond to the important points that were raised. First, let me begin, as I have before, by saying clearly that no shift in federal policy can change who we are or our unwavering commitment to ensuring that every member of our campus community is valued and welcome, which absolutely includes our international students. I'm just going to take a pause and say I just spoke to an international faculty person yesterday who started crying because of the fear that she is experiencing right now. We remain firmly committed to anti-discrimination protections, accessible education, and academic freedom. These principles define us, and we will stand firm in defending them. I have heard and felt the concerns and unease at UH Mānoa and our other campuses over the last several weeks. I share them. Together, we are facing significant and unprecedented challenges. As we respond, it is vital that we do so with honesty, transparency, and care. To that end, I plan to hold another open forum that will be live streamed next week and welcome your participation. This is on April 21st, 3 to 4 o'clock at Campus Center. Okay. So in response to the specific points raised in the letter, Hensel writes, support for free speech and academic freedom. UH leadership remains fully committed to protecting academic freedom and free speech for all students, faculty, and staff, including international members of our community. We are equally committed to ensuring a safe and welcoming campus environment for all and consistent enforcement of our time, place, and manner guidelines. To date, we are not aware of any UH community member whose visa was revoked for practicing free speech or protest activity. Monitoring, another point, monitoring of the student and exchange visitor information system. We have been checking SEVIS daily for some time and continue to do so that the students can be notified by UH officials as soon as we become aware. Next point, student enrollment following visa revocation. We have not and would not unilaterally unenroll a student simply because their visa was revoked, and we have not been asked to do so. Next point, protection of personally identifiable information. We take seriously our responsibility to safeguard the privacy of our students, faculty, and staff. However, the university is required to comply with information requests from the U.S. Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights. Under the OCR case processing manual, OCR has the right to access records relevant to its investigation, including those that maintain personally identifiable information. Immigration support. We are providing support to our students with terminated visas, including connecting them with community resources and attorneys who may be willing to provide pro bono services. We welcome and appreciate offers of support for this important effort. So if anybody has those abilities, please let us know. Data on campus protests. UH does not intend to share data, video footage, or photographs of campus protests or assemblies unless required to do so by law. Definition of anti-Semitism. As a public university, UH has not adopted a definition of anti-Semitism promulgated by outside interest groups. Federal authorities may establish definitions in the future to be used in federal investigations. Native Hawaiian pace of learning. Our commitment to being a Native Hawaiian pace of learning remains steadfast and unchanged. It is an integral part of our strategic plan and our university's identity. Support for LGBTQ+ and anti-discrimination. UH remains fully committed to the safety, well-being, and inclusion of all students, faculty, and staff, including our LGBTQ community, LGBTQ+ community. As stated before, changes in federal interpretations do not change our core mission or values, nor do they change state laws. And this is the last thing that I'll read. Procedural safeguards in investigation. The university remains committed to ensuring that its internal grievance and complaint procedures, including those under Title VI, are administered with appropriate procedural safeguards. In certain circumstances, individuals involved in a discrimination investigation may receive supportive measures when deemed necessary to ensure safety or uphold the integrity of the investigation process. These actions are implemented in accordance with the university's established policies and procedures, as well as any applicable collective bargaining agreements. I'm happy to share this letter with anyone who is interested in reading it. I would simply point out that 1, 2, 3, 4 of our demands have not been met. And so we need to continue to push. And these are important. These include that the administrator will continue supporting academic freedom by publicly defending any faculty, staff, or student should they come under attack. This is what Tufts did for Rumesa Ozturk. As soon as she was arrested, they came out saying that there is no legal grounds for her arrest, that her student opinion in the newspaper did not break any academic freedom rules and did not receive any complaints. So their administration came out in support of this person. And we're demanding that our university extend the same support to us. There are others. Each administration leadership will not provide the personally identified information of individual faculty, staff, or student members since Title VI investigation by the Department of Ed does not require the university to do so. This is supported by the Associate for American University Professors. The AUP has said that the university does not have to share this information. There's lots of others. The university leaders will commit to protecting LGBTQ+ and DEI issues and efforts. UH administrative leaders will provide immigration support, faculty, staff, and students. These are all things that are incredibly important. And so I'll just end there by saying I don't want to be in an antagonistic relationship with the administration. It's not them who are supposed to be fighting right now. It's fascism. It's Trump and their administration. Those people are the people who put us in this situation to begin with. And so we need to be united. We need to continue organizing. And I'm fucking down to do this. Let's do this together. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Let's give it one more round of applause. He's totally right. We should not be fighting one another when there's much bigger fish to fry or carrots to cut up. So, next, we would like to invite up Mehana Vahan to the stage. There she is. There you go. Let's give her a round of applause as she speaks to us from NREM.
I'd like to begin with a poem. The mouse is dreaming. In a dark hole behind the washing machine, the house mouse is dreaming. Whiskers, body, tail, twitching and trembling, paws scratching the air. That mouse, he's a dreaming of great chunks of cheese and whole loaves of bread, of a nest made of the finest pieces of cloth and paper, dry, warm, and snug, of living out in the open once again to be sun-warmed and star-shined, of walking through the territory patrolled by the cats, of cat traps and cat cages and cats without claws and teeth, of a world without cats. And this mouse, she's a dreaming of acres of lo'ikalo, of nets full of opelu, of rocks choked with opihi and limu, of forests of koa and iliahi and vili, of empty and crushing buildings which no longer scrape the sky, of living in the open once again to be sun-warmed and star-shined, of walking through the territory controlled by the cat, of cat traps and cat cages and cats without claws and teeth,
of a world without cats, and the mice dream dreams that would terrify the cat. By Puanani Burgess, January 22nd, 1986. I just wanted to start by thanking all of our teachers, all who go before us, our parents, our families, and all the students who are being so brave and all that's gone into organizing this day today. I just wanted to read a couple words from my alma mater, undergraduate alma mater. This is a letter sent by Harvard President Alan Garber to our community after alumni and students petitioned and asked Harvard to take the actions that they have been. The university will not surrender its independence or relinquish its constitutional rights. No government, regardless of which party is in power, should dictate what private universities or public universities can teach, whom they can admit and hire, and which areas of study and inquiry they can pursue. Freedom of thought and inquiry, along with the government's long-standing commitment to respect and protect it, has enabled universities to contribute in vital ways to a free society and to healthier, more prosperous lives for people everywhere. All of us share a stake in safeguarding that freedom. I think one of the things that universities teach and offer is awareness. Awareness of what's going on in other places. And empathy and understanding that it has happened before, that it's not the first time. Today it's raining in the mountains, there's only passing showers here. But in other places, on the other side of the mountains, in other lives, it's storming. And the rain will pass, and the floods have come, and they've come before. And those are all the things that we learn together. And there's other places where there's not enough rain, and when there's no rain. So I just have a few things of what's happening in our fields, in environmental fields, to share, because I think that ability to be aware of other experiences in these times, so that we can reach out and hold one another and step in where people are in need and really be there for those most vulnerable is vital. And then just end with a few possibilities in one other short poem. So what we're seeing, well, one of the things, of course, some of the losses are the sense of past generations, that they can pass a better, safer world and planet to their grandchildren after all of the work that's gone into environmental laws, like the Clean Water Act and things that are being gutted now. We have many young faculty who moved for research grants, who kind of risked everything, took a chance, come to Hawaii, whose jobs are on the line in our department. We have partnerships that are built, because more and more we're trying to move money out of the university and into community. With farmers willing to take a chance, for example, on new crops that would serve Hawaii's food needs instead of global exports, and just need that little bit of support, and that funding is being cut. With community partners that care for Aina and Hawaii, that have learned to work on federal grants and rely on them and do all the crazy work it takes to even get them and manage them. And then I'm thinking of PIs and people who have grants and who are so worried about all the many people that they employ, and whether those parents can keep supporting their children. And so we're seeing that all around us. And then of course our students, our international students especially, who are worried about going home. All of the many changes that people have talked about. Our new graduates, the federal government can be a terrible caretaker and a huge desecrator of land in Hawaii. In conservation fields, they've also had the most money to care for Aina, much more than, for example, state agencies. So a lot of our graduates who've gone on and gotten good federal jobs, that they're so excited about taking care of places in Hawaii, and then been those probationary hires that lost them, and figuring out how they manage their student loans and all of those things in these times. And I think lastly for me, the expectation of our children that our leaders need to be kind and serve others, because we're seeing just the opposite. However, for us in Hawaii, these things are not new. We are the most remote place in the world. We are islands that have been under the thumb and governance of a continent 3,000 miles away. So the dissonance of what government does with what we know is right for our Aina, and the way that impacts our ability to take care of Aina. And Aina is everything. Aina is place, and Aina is not Aina without people. So it's the connection of all of us to this place and how we take care of it. And it's how it sustains us and how we sustain it. Aina is shelter and home. Aina is food. It's security and well-being. It's our connection to one another. And we have long known that government solutions are not the way to care for Aina. And that private solutions, which we see more plundering than ever, also cannot allow us to care for Aina in the way we need. And that those solutions really lie in community. They rely in groups of people reaching out and working together. The people who know the place best, the people who are nourished by the place, the people who are already taking care of it. So I guess I just would say that this is an opportunity. The floods are not new. We also learned that in our fields, that there's been floods and hurricanes and our communities have endured. And this one too will pass, but it'll make us stronger. It will make us more independent and less reliant on external governance to be able to care for our Aina and one another. So closing poem. This is called Wainini, Trickling Waters. And I promise it's short. Do waterfalls feel they are falling? Do streams sense when they start? Coalesce enough water seeking light, pulsing through soil to flow? Can an occupied nation percolate back into being, not in one precipitous flood, National Guard on alert, occupying police force in riot gear, the future generation standing, arms flung wide before advancing tanks. But in the exhale breath of a mother tongue, taught in the school system that banned it, lands cared for in community, walls rebuilt by hands, passing stones, seated in international convenings, Native scholars, new allies, an army of students, telling our stories again and again, songs sung anew, again and again, meals sourced from the land, the return of water. Gurgling from ground, streaming round stone, grooving a path, smooth channel, recalled even when the stream runs dry. Will our children, their grandchildren, swim?
Okay, now I'm going to ask you for one more round of applause. That was beautiful. And serves as a great reminder to please kukuan, make sure we leave this area cleaner than we came here for. And with that, I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Professor John Goldberg-Hiller.
Thank you, and thank you to all the people who organized this event, and to the speakers and the artists who've given us a sustenance for hours. It feels fantastic. Thank you. I'm John Goldberg-Hiller. I'm the chair of the Political Science Department. Since beginning his revenge presidency, Trump has targeted universities in the name of fighting discrimination and anti-Semitism. The war on DEI programs and initiatives in universities seeks to protect those who allegedly harmed by efforts to recruit, include, or even acknowledge students and teachers from non-white backgrounds. In the imagination of a zero-sum game, where one group's gain is necessarily another's loss, dominant social groups, straight white and conservative males mostly, are said to be victimized by efforts to respect, include, celebrate, or name what we have come to call social diversity. The aim seems to be to limit any consideration of race, to define gender in the binary language of sex, and to broadly weaken the infrastructure of knowledge making about social disadvantage and oppression. Cynically, this discourse locates injury not at this level of historical social disadvantage, but rather among society's most advantaged groups, impugning democracy at the same time. So I want to ask, is the alleged protection of Jewish students, particularly those who support Israel's military policies, a similar effort to protect the advantage of whiteness? Does it have anything to do with the attack on diversity? I want to argue today that the administration's policy, the regime, I'll say that, the regime's policies opposing what they see as anti-Semitism in many ways partakes of the same anti-Semitism they seek to fight, leaving Jews as the antagonists to the universities we all love. Trump signed an executive order on the 29th of January reinstating and extending Executive Order 13899 from his first administration, combating anti-Semitism in universities through an extension of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1965. Title VI prohibits discrimination based on race, color, or national origin in programs and activities receiving federal financial assistance, including education. The newest order took into account Hamas's October 7, 2023 attack and the political reactions to Israel's response. The directive lamented, and I quote here, an unprecedented wave of vile anti-Semitic discrimination, vandalism, and violence against our citizens, especially in our schools and on our campuses. Jewish students have faced an unrelenting barrage of discrimination, denial of access to campus common areas and facilities, including libraries and classrooms, and intimidation, harassment, and physical threats and assaults. The executive order also ordered the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Education, the Secretary of Homeland Security to monitor for and report activities by alien students and staff, ensuring that such reports about aliens lead to investigations and, if warranted, removal. There is little doubt that some Jews on some campuses were targeted as Jews in the activism around Palestinian lives after Israel's retaliation. Efforts to blame all Jews for Israel's reaction and to exclude Jews from common university areas were sometimes driven by hate as much as frustration and outrage. There is also little doubt that American universities have had a very troubled historical relationship with Jews. Numerous universities that the administration has targeted for anti-Semitism once had explicit quotas on the number of Jews that could be admitted as students or who could teach. Columbia, Harvard, Princeton, Yale, and Northwestern all capped the number of Jews who could be admitted to undergraduate programs in the first part of the 20th century, and medical and law quotas were also common. In 1914, Columbia's student body was 40% Jewish. In 1918, 4 years later, it was 22%. Johns Hopkins imposed quotas after World War II, while other universities were eliminating them. Northwestern capped the admission of Jews as late as 1964. Jews, however, have not been special in this regard. Blacks, women, Asians, Catholics, and others have faced formal and informal quotas in many universities, often on stereotypical grounds such as personality deficiency, clannishness, and the like. Anti-Semitism, like racism, ableism, ethnic domination, gender, culture, national discrimination, is just that. It's discrimination. Anti-Semitic speech is one of the many forms of hate speech. So what do we mean by anti-Semitism? Certainly it is the hatred of Jews and the hatred of Jewish institutions because they are Jewish. It includes Holocaust denial and the blaming of all Jews for the political decisions of some. Does it necessarily extend to the question of the support of Israel? Definitions themselves involve political struggle, even within groups. I observe it's keenly Jewish to disagree among ourselves, which is paradoxically a key to the history of Jewish persistence. Definitions of anti-Semitism that reference Israel cause political disagreement because political Zionism has split Jews since its founding in the closing years of the 19th century by Theodor Herzl. Since 1948, the founding of the State of Israel, there have been many Jews, such as myself, who have voiced concern for Palestinian property and civil rights and national aspirations, who have been dubious of the Zionist project of Jewish nationalism and settlerism that often precludes these rights, and been vocal opponents of the internal politics of Israel. In the last few years, intensified colonization of the West Bank, the obscene war in Gaza, and growing authoritarian rule inside Israel have augmented the number of Jews, including Jewish students, who have protested in support of Palestinian causes, an end to Israeli military violence and occupation, who've expressed support for the boycott of and divestment from Israel over Israeli refusal to negotiate Palestinian freedom. All this is to say that the question of Zionism is not only contested around the world, but is also a long-standing and increasingly constitutive fracture in the international Jewish community. We can thus see efforts to divide Jews in Trump's endorsement of a definition of anti-Semitism first advanced by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance in 2016. This statement, as Cindy Franklin mentioned earlier, includes 11 examples of anti-Semitism, 7 of which focus on the State of Israel. An alternative definition modifying the IHRA promulgated by academics, the Jerusalem Declaration on Anti-Semitism from 2021, explicitly acknowledges that the critique of Israel and the support for boycott and divestment is little different to the critique of other political events, such as the invasion of Ukraine. It is not necessarily anti-Semitic, though it can be in some contexts. Talking about Israel, advocating boycotts of Israel, using evidence to critique Israel as a state, criticizing Zionism as an undesirable form of nationalism, are not anti-Semitic, according to this definition, but holding Jews as Jews collectively responsible for Israel's conduct is. But even this more liberal definition has been rightly critiqued as Orientalist, as ignoring the history and the importance of the voice of Palestinians. Some Jews do recognize that the foundation for a Jewish state, just as matters regarding the legitimacy of French colonial control of Tahiti or the American control of Hawaii, are questions not just for Jews, but for Palestinians whose property claims are ignored and whose voices have been silenced, as well as the world community which ultimately sets the recognition rules for sovereignty. There are unique features about efforts to get universities to fight anti-Semitism more vigorously on rather narrow grounds that don't match this generalized concern for political debate, and which ironically further anti-Semitism. The narrow proscription against pro-Palestinian speech as anti-Semitism impedes fair critique in the university. Also, it does not recognize the political division among Jews on this issue. Dismissing out of hand some Jewish concerns is itself anti-Semitic, not an antidote to it. But there is other evidence of anti-Semitism. Groups who openly spew hatred for Jews are not marginalized or punished by this regime. Trump eliminated the national database tracking domestic, mostly right-wing terrorism 3 weeks ago. The Proud Boys, who attacked me here at UH several years ago as a Jew professor, and other anti-Semitic groups were given pardons for January 20th and have been lauded as patriots. Elon's Nazi salute and Holocaust denial is not condemned. The Deputy Press Secretary at the Department of Defense, Kingsley Wilson, was recently appointed despite a long record of anti-Semitic remarks. If the real issue is anti-Semitism, why only consider university protests? Is this an effort to protect Jews, or simply to use Jews as pawns to break university governance? Secondly, the punishments don't fit the crime. Grabbing vulnerable students, sometimes off the streets, and sending them to prisons, concentration camps, or exile seems far out of line with the punishment of other kinds of hate speech in the university, while mimicking what happened to Jews in Nazi Germany. Supervising and diminishing programs of Palestinian or Middle Eastern studies, a clear breach of academic freedom, seems a ridiculously overbroad policy viewed from the stated aim of protecting Jews on campus. Further, the cynical exceptionalism of Jewish protection schemes is really a parody of Jewish power that has long fueled anti-Semitic tropes, while also revealing the reducing anti-Semitism is not the true aim. Jews have been made into scapegoats for far-right or neo-fascist policies. Extraordinary techniques inflate and mimic the myths of Jewish power, capturing so-called aliens such as Mahmoud Khalil and Rumeza Ozturk, and secretly sending them incommunicado to Louisiana, Texas, or other venues parallels the fantasy that Jews use secretive means to maintain extraordinary power in the world. It also makes Jews and their lives seem overly significant, which is an old anti-Semitic trope. Disturbing the rule of law does not increase the safety of Jews. Jews have often been said by our detractors that we run the world, direct the banks, control space lasers, and other fantastic nonsense. If only it were true. Secret Jewish power is said by many true anti-Semites to lie behind the influx of poor immigrants and refugees. Therefore, Jews are the real power behind the replacement of whites and their natural supremacy. Efforts to scapegoat Jews are historically tired demonstrations that Jews are not and never will be whites. Finally, universities have long been a haven for Jewish intellectuals, especially after fighting the anti-Semitic education quotas of past decades and the refusal over decades of many corporations and industries to hire Jews. Weakening or destroying universities in the name of stopping anti-Semitism upends one of the main institutions that has been made safe for many minorities, including Jews, following years of common struggle. And no Jewish student is safer from these actions. This drives a wall between those whose diversity makes the university strong, setting at odds the support for DEI against the rights of Jews, many of whom have been vocal supporters of civil rights and diversity programs. In all these ways, the current administration, the current regime's efforts to eradicate and punish what it is called anti-Semitic speech reeks of anti-Semitism. What's at stake in saying this? It repairs alliances that we are all going to need to preserve our university. Jews are not special, and holding them out as such, even by saying that they are uniquely vulnerable, is dishonest cover designed to dismiss the concerns of other minorities, to weaken free speech, to breach academic freedom, and to quash campus dissent. Building foreign policy, unquestionable American support for Netanyahu's Israel, for instance, by silencing critics in the name of eliminating anti-Semitism, also ignores Jewish students and faculty who have been vocal in their support of Palestinian issues and the critique of Israel. In this regard, some Jews are made to pay a price to destroy legitimate public debate over Middle East affairs. The intrusion into academic freedom that threatens our research into settler colonial theory, gender discourse, and racial capitalism and injustice, which are claimed as de facto anti-Semitic when applied to Israel, separates Jews from others who struggle against imperialism and white supremacy. Naming the administration's policies as anti-Semitic is an attempt to return us all to the protection of diversity on campuses and reject the division between many Jews and their chosen allies.
One more round of applause. Woo! Okay, before I introduce our next speaker, a very important announcement. Anyone lose their glasses? Anyone? Okay, if you may know who owns these, please let them know, or maybe they have done already, but it will be with the organizers, so please put it down. Okay, and so with that, I'd like to introduce up here Sonia and Mari. Let's give them a round of applause. Woo.
Aloha kako. We're so thankful that you guys are all here today. We wanted to start with a chant to kind of bring our energy together, get us all into community. All right, I'm gonna ask, what do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! If we don't get it, shut it down! If we don't get it, shut it down! All right, thanks guys. Okay, we're here today as students of environmental science at the University of Hawaii at Mānoa, current student and alum And we wanted to talk to you guys a little bit today about environmental science and the structures of science and connecting those of us who have stake in scientific research at our public institution to the conversations that are happening here today. Today we've learned from incredible speakers, community members, and campus organizations at this day of action, many of whom are very directly connected to the attacks on free speech at universities across the country. Scholars of education, political science, and gender studies are some of the most visible targets of these attacks. For a long time, and for some perhaps, until this moment, scientists have been able to imagine ourselves as removed from this political landscape, as inheritors of an intellectual tradition that prides itself on neutrality and objectivity. We now find ourselves grappling with science as the deeply political field it has always been, as funding is lost, research is censored, and some scientists are fired for the very nature of their work.
We have to show up and take action because science is just one of the things that's under attack. Because science has never really been neutral in the first place. Because it is inherently political, and its political nature is becoming even clearer now. And because science has a long history of colonial, extractive behavior, and it is up to us as participants in this field to show up for every community that is being threatened right now. The concept of total neutrality in science is a myth. It is impossible to do completely neutral science because we as humans are dictated by our own personal experiences, ethics, opinions, resources, networks, and funding. Our work must be placed in a broader context of who it was done by, who paid for it, why it was conducted, all of which make what we do deeply political. This is especially clear in this current moment. As public science is stripped and defunded, researchers are increasingly turning to military and corporate institutions to continue paying their students and operating their labs. But this shift carries real danger. By embedding these organizations deeply into our funding structures, we open the door for them to gradually shape the direction of science, allowing only the kinds of work that serve their interests. The interest of funders has always been key in shaping the direction of research, and today that reality is especially clear. Climate science is being sidelined. Environmental justice is being defunded. This is about control. It's about who gets to define what and who science is for and whose knowledge counts.
Western science has a long history of exploiting lands and bodies in the name of progress. And while there has been a powerful movement to deconstruct and decolonize Western science and uplift indigenous, community-led, and justice-centered research, especially here in Hawaii, it is now those same grants that are the first to be targeted. We cannot give up this kind of science to meet the demands of the federal government. If we no longer allow ourselves to study barriers, climate, diversity, identity, or even pollution, then who is this research really for? We must rethink how we do science. We must resist its further entrenchment in exploitation, colonialism, surveillance, and control. Instead, all of this should inspire us to imagine a new path forward as researchers, one that allows us to step firmly away from science's extractive and racist history and stand even more firmly in our defense of types of knowledge often dismissed or deemed invaluable. The time is now to engage in work that is truly of and for our communities. We must come together to create our own safety nets, figure out alternative forms of funding as our current funding streams are being challenged, establish new ways to share work, and be in solidarity with every community under attack. Let's fight for science that serves people, not power. Thanks, guys.
Mahalo, everyone. I will be our last speaker. I have about 1 page to read, and then we are going to sing together, and then we can all go off to the rest of our work days, okay? Thank you guys for staying. I know the time has delayed a little bit, but I'm really, truly grateful you guys are all here so we could close out. We are not American! We are not American! These are the words that Dr. Hanani K. Trask shouted infamously that continue to live on after her passing. Many of us descend from Kanaka, who put their identities on record and signed the anti-annexation Ku'e petitions of 1897, addressed to President at the time, William McKinley. One of those many brave Kanaka is my tutu, my great-great-great-grandmother, Rachel Rockingham Lokinihama Kaleonehu Keakuanui, who put her name on that petition when she was only 20 years old. She put her name on the Ku'e petitions because she wanted to let President McKinley know that she was not American. Her signature reminds me, her descendants, and all Kanaka who are descendants of those signatories, that we are not American. At the University of Hawaii, many of us are Hawaiian Kingdom subjects with U.S. citizen status. An enormous part of our community are international students and colleagues, and they may be on visas and green cards, legal in the eyes of the United States. There are also students who may be from mixed or undocumented status households, illegal in the eyes of the United States. But one must ask, as we've asked today, how can these people be illegal on stolen lands? And there is one thing we all have in common. We are not American. But though my tutu put her name on that petition, her descendants became America's wards. My grandparents' birth certificate says not the Kingdom of Hawaii, they say the territory of Hawaii. My mother's birth certificate says the state of Hawaii. Mine says Washington State. Mahmoud Khalil, a legal permanent resident and graduate student, is being threatened with deportation. Badar Khan Suri, visa holder and postdoctoral researcher, is being threatened with deportation. Rumeza Ozturk, visa holder and graduate student, was abducted by mass ICE agents in broad daylight and is now being threatened with deportation. And just this week, Mohsen Madawi, a legal permanent resident, was arrested by ICE at his appointment for citizenship, and they are not American. Other than not being American, these academics have another thing in common. None of them have been charged with a crime, but they are all scholars who publicly condemn the crimes and violence against the Palestinian people. If thoughts, words, beliefs, and ideas can get scholars deported, then we have no academic freedom, period. We have no freedom, period. We must all have the right to share our thoughts without fear of political persecution. We must all ku'e for freedom of speech and freedom of thought of both citizens and non-citizens, even if we may disagree with those words and thoughts. Days ago, we found out that students at UH have already gotten visas revoked. And I have friends who come forward to me terrified that, quote, causing a ruckus can cause them to lose their legitimate visas. Our friends and colleagues have been silenced and fear that they will be deported based on their political speech. I also have friends of mixed immigration status households who are fearful that their undocumented loved ones will be snatched away by ICE. The fear being sowed goes well beyond academia. Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia was illegally detained and incarcerated in a foreign prison camp, a concentration camp, and the Trump administration, the Trump regime, continues to lie openly about their errors and feign ignorance about their ability to return him, even as all 9 justices of the conservative-leaning Supreme Court tell them to facilitate Kilmar's return. Kilmar and all other men like him who were taken to that prison have a right to due process, and they deserve their day in court. U.S. citizens need to speak out against this and be the loudest voices. If there is no due process for some, there is none for any of us. Those of us who have one of the 50 states on our birth certificates, those of us who are U.S. citizens, students, faculty, staff at universities, administrators, provosts, presidents of universities, members of the community writ large, those of us who are U.S. citizens. This is our kuleana. Know their rights because their rights are our rights. Share their stories and call your legislators. When one's documents determine their vulnerability in the eyes of the federal government, then those of us who have United States citizenship need to be the voices of the silenced and the disappeared. Mahalo. Okay, Oli, if you could join me up here, we're going to close out our very epic and long day.
Hey, give yourselves a round of applause for making it to the end. That's legit. My favorite people are always the people who are there at the end. Who cares who shows up on time? Y'all are here till the lights turn off. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna sing a song, but first, you know, Brandy led us in this poetry workshop earlier, and I don't know if anyone else wrote poems, but I wrote a poem and I feel like we should share it. Also, if you're taking pictures, that's fine, but please don't take pictures of my kid's face. He's too pretty for the camera. Okay, a prayer. For the queens and the queers, the disabled, the diverse, the oppressed, for the people with and without uteruses. For the political people polluting public discourse, discriminating against fascist fuckboys, people pregnant with a radical vision, disabling the toxic taste of silence, untying tied and tired tongues, for the political people who are indiscriminate speech orienting us towards justice, towards freedom, towards each other. A prayer for the culturally responsive, for the culturally appropriate and inappropriate, sensitive only to the needs of struggle. May your lungs be full of laughter. May your dreams be full of revolution. May your home be full of comrades. In the morning, the armies invade. In the evenings, they fall away against our advance. May you never forget this power, this power, this power they could never take away. All right, we are going to do as we often do, and in and in song. And this is also, like, we should hold hands. If that feels, you know, Jeremy safe to you in the world we live in, we could hold hands in a large circle. Kumamehana said something really important that if you weren't listening earlier, you may have missed it. She said that Aina is everything. She referenced the work of David Malo when she said that Aina need people to be Aina. Right? Land without people is Moku, it's land severed by the sea, but people, kanaka, make Aina Aina. So when we sing this mele that is about the Aina we love, I want you to remember that this mele is also about the people we love, the people who make our places beautiful. Cool. Now I feel really excluded, but okay. I'm just kidding, it's all good, it's all good. All right, I'll start it and I'll probably just run over there and join y'all. If you don't know the song, I think they were passing out words. If you didn't get words, you can look it up on your phone. The song is Hawaii Aloha. And if you don't know the song today, maybe one of the things you can commit to, if you're committed to being here in long-term struggle, is learning this mele so that you can add your ea to it. Okay. E Hawaii e ku'one hanaue Ku'uhome kulaivine
pick up the trash. See you guys next time. Thank you.
I'm getting it.
I'm going to
Hello. Thank you, you too. Yeah, it fades really quickly.
Well, because if I leave it,
Can you leave?
Oh my god. I was like, ooh.